You didn't quit. You're really like against all odds. You're doing something that no one in the family has done, that none of your friends have done.
I'm just gonna say the thing you're not supposed to say.
Whatever is mine is looking for me.
You have to know what road to take to get to your final destination.
Everything that you ever wanted is on the other side of fear.
I got a question for y'all. So, why do y'all see girls on the internet, social media, with stuff, and then y'all try to go slide in DM, like whatever the case may be? Why do y'all think because he bought her that he's gonna buy y'all that? You're not her, love. You not that lady. You not that girl. So it's no way you could possibly think, oh, because he bought her this, I know he gonna buy me this. Girl, you not that girl. Like, you're not that girl. And so many of y'all girls are like that, and it's so weird. Like, it's just so weird how the world's set up. Like, a bitch will literally see your buy you a house. And I'm talking about instantly. She finna go like all his pictures, slide up in his DM thinking that he finna buy her house too. But it don't work like that.
Welcome back to Between Two Worlds with Yoni. Here we dive into shadow stories, the mirrors of our hidden fears and beliefs. By facing them, we learn we can rewrite the story and choose a new ending for ourselves. Before we get into today's video, I want to be clear. This is a storytime breakdown based on what's being alleged online. I'm not stating this as confirmed fact, and I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm discussing the internet narrative and the bigger lesson underneath it all. So the names floating around this situation that was recently exposed online is about Boston Richie rapper Jalen Taheen Foster and his girlfriend Tatiana Chanel. And another name that people keep bringing up in the mix is Mini Barbie, whose real name is Monaria Nicole White, and she's also the current girlfriend of Rod Wave. Now, this is where the story gets interesting. There is a woman currently going viral on TikTok stating that a spiritual advisor provided services totaling 483 minutes and that she charges $1,200 an hour. That would come out to roughly 8 hours of time and about $9,660 if those numbers are accurate. But apparently, she was providing services to both rapper Boston Richie and his girlfriend Tatiana Chanel.
Tatiana Chanel, Boston Richie's girlfriend. In 2023, Tati has been working with a spiritual advisor. This is the spiritual advisor, and this is Tatiana Chanel. What made her start to work with a spiritual advisor? We don't know. Allegedly, Tatiana Chanel started working with the spiritual advisor in 2023, if not prior to 2023. Both Tatiana Chanel and Boston Richie was working with the spiritual guy, and then they decided that they did not want to pay the lady. Hear me out though. The lady charges $1,200 an hour, and she claims, allegedly, that Tatiana Chanel and Boston Richie has ran through 483 minutes. And I heard that this has literally made it to the courts, and I'm trying to figure out if y'all have made it to the courts and y'all can pay a lawyer, why don't y'all just pay the spiritual advisor? Boston Richie was dealing with a spiritual advisor in Tallahassee because he had a federal case. Now, the Tallahassee spiritual advisor is speaking out because he didn't pay her either. I'm telling y'all, this story is getting crazier by the minute. Rodarius Green, he is a rapper, singer, whatever you want to call him. He was going with this girl named Dee. That's his baby mama of his twins. But then Dee decided she had enough of Rodarius' fat ass and she sent him back to the streets, and now she is free like a bird. Free, free, free. Then he went to go be with Nari, which is the girl in the picture right here. That is his girlfriend. And he ended up getting her a G-Wagon and everything. Then this was for her most recent birthday where he went Rolex, Patek, all that good stuff. Jewelry on jewelry, cars on cars, all that. Not to mention, he just got her a brand new 2026 Benz. A fast one. That's what she said. Then we got our good girl Tatiana Chanel, who are there allegedly trying to destiny swap with our good girl Nari. Because allegedly the spiritual advisor that Tatiana Chanel is working with is saying that she is literally stalking Nari and Rodarius' relationship, and she is envious of it, and she wants everything that Rodarius is doing for Nari, which is also known as Mini Barbie. To get the money on, to have fun on, and to get the material things. Meanwhile, there's another woman out there living the same life I'm living, getting the material things and then some, but she don't have to go through this. Of course she's going to envy the relationship. Of course she's going to want what that girl has without having to deal with this. Like, does that make sense for y'all? Why would I deal with a woman beater, a woman abuser, put my life in danger when I can simply have me a simp? A simp that literally would kiss the ground you walk on. A simp you don't have to deal with cheating allegations with, because we rarely ever hear Rod Wave is cheating. Well, but then again, he did turn around and get Zarya pregnant, huh? But that's beyond the point. If you don't gotta deal with getting your ass whooped for the finer things in life, of course you're gonna envy the girl who doesn't have to deal with getting her ass whooped for the finer things in life when you have to.
The reason I decided to cover this story isn't because I care about the mess, it's because it touches a real spiritual issue called spiritual bypassing. That's when people use spiritual work like a remote control to bend circumstances, manipulate outcomes, or shortcut inner growth, instead of doing the actual work of healing, discipline, and self-concept. Spiritual bypassing is the act of using spiritual or religious language to avoid doing emotional and psychological work. At its core, it's rooted in avoidance. Instead of processing grief, anger, jealousy, fear, or shame, those feelings get minimized, rushed, or spiritually reframed away, not healed, but dismissed. This can be seen in both religious spaces and spiritual spaces. They have different languages, different spiritual practices, but they demonstrate the same behavior. Both frameworks can become tools to sidestep discomfort rather than move through it. Spiritual bypassing works like putting a spiritual gloss over a cracked foundation. It may look polished on the surface, but underneath, the structure is still unstable. And eventually, the instability shows up in relationships, in identity, in mental health, and in repeated cycles. What's often missed is that bypassing isn't about spirituality itself, it's about defense. It's a coping mechanism, a way to feel safe without being honest, a way to feel powerful without being vulnerable. But healing doesn't skip the hard parts. Integration requires sitting with uncomfortable emotions, naming them, and allowing them to inform growth, not shaming them. Whether inside religion or outside of it, spirituality becomes distorted when it's used to avoid unfinished emotional business instead of confronting it. True spiritual maturity isn't about appearing healed. It's about being honest enough to admit what still hurts and grounded enough to work through it. Tatiana was going to this spiritual advisor because she wanted a lifestyle. She saw someone else publicly living, and that's where the destiny swapping conversation comes in, not as a fact, but as a pattern. When admiration turns into obsession and inspiration turns into entitlement.
That y'all don't know, people been going to what they consider spiritual people for the longest. When it come down to these men, it's crazy. I don't know if I'm too deep off in TikTok streets, y'all on the same street as me, but I was scrolling my For You and I came across the clip of them saying that, what is her name, Tatiana? She was going to a spiritual advisor, and she basically was sending all mini Barbie, pictures, tweets, whatever, to the spiritual advisor, talking to the spiritual advisor for hours, expressing how she wants what Mini Barbie has. She wants that. Basically like she'll take Rod Wave, praying on this girl downfall or her and Rod Wave to break up in order to have what she have. And it's like so many, I like when different things happen where it open up conversations, because so many people don't realize. Y'all talking about, selling their soul for the devil, doing stuff for the devil. Do y'all know how many regular women do the same thing? Go to these tarot readers, go to these spiritual advisors, go to these girls who do voodoo, and they prey on regular everyday dope boys, or they see what the next female have and they prey on that, or I'm talking about be lighting candles and won't turn them off, be praying on the downfall of these men baby mamas. And yeah, most of the time these women do get what they want, but it comes so much hell comes with it. The sleepless nights, the him constantly cheating on you, the him won't letting you be by yourself because now you don't pray for a certain love that you didn't know the consequences that come with it.
And this is where spiritual bypassing stops being personal and becomes ethical. When people avoid inner work, they often outsource their discernment to spiritual figures, which can turn into spiritual codependency. The advisor becomes the compass, and self-trust slowly erodes. In the age of social media, this can blend with parasocial obsession, where admiration turns into fixation. And when spirituality is used to justify that fixation, it can lead to spiritual identity theft, wanting someone someone else's life, energy, or outcome without doing the work that shaped it. No spiritual advisor can live your life for you. No ritual can replace your self-awareness. Your spirit is already speaking. Are you listening? Are you trusting? Are you accepting what's being revealed, even when it's uncomfortable? True spirituality doesn't take your power. It gives it back. And any system, religious or spiritual, that discourages self-trust and accountability isn't guiding, it's distracting. In my opinion, speaking from what's being alleged online, the issue isn't just spiritual bypassing, it's where trust was placed. While Tatiana was focused on assessing a lifestyle, she also relied on a spiritual advisor who allegedly lacked ethical boundaries and integrity. And that alignment matters because spiritual guidance without ethics isn't guidance, it's influence. And when integrity is missing, spiritual work stops being about growth and starts being about control. You can't develop discernment through someone who doesn't model it, and you can't move in alignment while being guided by someone who benefits from blurred boundaries.
Did y'all see what Roy Webb gifted Minnie Barbie? He'd have gifted her a Rolex, 2 more watches I can't even pronounce, some rings. I don't know what the name is, but I know they was bling bling blind, they were shining. I couldn't see when I was looking at them. Like, don't shoot me, I'm just a messenger. The man went crazy. Like, that was enough for me. Like, who gonna do it next? Because he making y'all men look bad. Like, he make y'all look bad. I don't want to hear nothing about what he did. Whoop, whoop, whoop. For blase, blase. We talking about right now. The man went dumb. I'll be back.
Many Barbies' sense of safety, identity, and personal life were energetically trespassed. This wasn't about inspiration. It was a violation of boundaries around lifestyle, intimacy, and personal milestones. Public joy, especially when shared online, can unintentionally invite parasitic attention. Not everyone who watches is celebrating with you. Some people are observing with comparison, fixation, and entitlement. Minnie Barbie appears to genuinely enjoy sharing her life, the cars, the trips, the jewelry, the home, the love, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when someone is spiritually bypassing their own dissatisfaction, that visibility can become a target. Joy turns into obsession, admiration turns into fixation, and spirituality gets misused as a way to justify crossing lines that should never be crossed. This isn't about luxury, it's about entitlement to someone else's life. And when spiritual practices are used to access what was never freely given, that's not manifestation. It's a breach of energetic and ethical boundaries. And this is where spiritual practices themselves get misunderstood. Spiritual tools were never meant to be shortcuts to embodiment. They were meant to support self-awareness, not replace it. But when spiritual bypassing takes over, those tools get used to avoid the very work that creates stability, confidence, and identity. That's how people end up mentally trapped. Obsession becomes self-imposed suffering. Fixation turns in psychological bondage, and instead of building a life from the inside out, energy gets spent watching, comparing, and trying to access what someone else has already embodied. You can't steal a life you haven't built, and you can't bypass the work without consequences. Avoiding the work is what causes the collapse. And when things eventually fall apart, when boundaries blur, when ethics are crossed, when exposure happens, it's often not punishment, it's revelation, which is why Tatiana was exposed by the very spiritual advisor she trusted. Spirituality doesn't exempt you from accountability, it requires it. At the end of the day, the truth always comes to light. When something is built on illusion, collapse is unavoidable. Inner work can't be skipped because consequences don't miss, they surface. So if we're speaking from what's being alleged online, this moment marks a turning point. Not drama, not spectacle, but exposure as information. A pause that forces reassessment, boundaries, and self-responsibility. And before we look outward, it's worth pausing inward because moments like this aren't just stories, they're mirrors. So ask yourself, are you doing the inner work or are you trying to outrun it? Are you building a life from alignment or reaching for outcomes you haven't embodied yet? Because the work you avoid doesn't disappear, it returns, and clarity always arrives eventually. The question is whether you meet it through growth or through collapse.
This is my opinion. I'm free to state my opinion anytime I like, right? Thank you.
I don't want you to feel like that, but yeah, feel like that.